Hello and welcome to the Reflective Coach podcast. My name is Jordan. I'm the co-host today, covering for Luca. Today we have an amazing guest on the show on the education series. Very special expertise in meditation, teaching, and spirituality. So welcome, Will. And how are you today?
I'm doing really good. It's a beautiful day out here, and yeah, I'm loving living.
That's what we love to hear. So thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate it. So
Mhm.
can you give me, it's hitting straight in there, but can you please give an introduction to yourself for our listeners, please?
Absolutely. My name's Will Badie. I've been teaching meditation for about a year now. Um, Over the last years or two, I've really gotten into mindfulness and meditation. I've always been about trying to help people, and this seemed like in one of the best avenues I ever really discovered to really have a real effect on people. So I enjoy doing what I do. I intend on uh, teaching meditation in some form, as long as I live. So, yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No problem at all. So tell us more about your teaching. How did that come about? Do you enjoy doing it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done. I love um, being able to have somebody, um, it's very intimate to let somebody into your mind, into your psyche, to try to um, bring about some positive change. But as for how I began, I started. I formed my meditation um, as I was working at a job that I really didn't. It was kind of stealing my soul. I felt like it was
Yeah.
sucking my life force, and just being able to make myself still available to positive voices, podcasts, and things that pointed me in the direction of myself, as opposed to pointing me in the direction of a life that I would hate. And it was bumpy, but I eventually, with the help of my meditation that I had formed maybe a year or so ago, it really helped me to elevate to a place where I felt confident enough to leave that job and to take a step out, on faith that you have the ability to survive the circumstances, regardless of what they are. And there's been bumps in the road, but once I really started to once meditation became an everyday thing for me, I realized I wanted to teach it in some capacity. So I went and got a certificate to teach meditation. Um, I always thought say it's pretty funny, that you need a a certification to do something like mindfulness, right? Like it's like if you can imagine the Buddha, be like, yeah, I'm certified to teach this. It always seems kind of crazy to me, but yeah, I got a certification to teach, and then I started teaching in a town near where I live at in Pennsylvania, here in America, and you
Amazing.
know yeah, so I've been there, and I've been communicating with different yoga studios, and I'm about to take it online. I'm in the process of having my website developed. So I'm trying to grow it. This is something I want to do for a long time.
That's excellent. That sounds really encouraging, and it's a journey that it's going to be a new step. And did you feel nervous at all starting up, or did you feel confident that you was ready to hit for hit the nail running straight away, hit the ground running straight away.
You know, what it's it. This isn't my main source of income right now, so it's you know, I feel like when something's not your main source of income, then you can kind of experience it the way that it's actually happening. I think a lot of the time we want things to happen on a shorter time span than what's actually, um, really in front of us. So when I first began actually teaching, um, I was absolutely nervous because before then, it had been me kind of leading myself through meditations. And then when you're in front of people, um, there's you feel the eyes, you feel judgments and things. But I, I love this space, the mindfulness, and in my case, the spirituality aspects of this, because um, you meet some extremely beautiful people in these spaces. Uh, People who are thinking positively, people who don't look at you crazy for voicing lofty ideas. It's such a beautiful space to be in. So that really helped, but I was still extremely nervous. And as time went on, I feel like I've come into my own, and I, I know what I want to um, get out of a meditation, and I know how to affect people. And I'm glad that I got past the awkwardness of the beginning so that I could get to this place.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think if you're really passionate about something, the rest will follow in due course, and that's really exciting for your journey. So, for our listeners, I mean, I've got uh, a bit of an understanding about meditation, but in your own words, can you describe to the listeners what meditation is?
Yeah, I actually think about this every day, kind of. I'm like, what is this? And it's it is a decluttering of your mind, and it can provide you with a sense of clarity that is, I think, extremely useful, especially in this world, because there's so many different things flying at us all the time. It Stimulus is everywhere. We almost feel weird when we don't have stimulus, and because of that, when we take time to sort of stand still and look into to ourselves, and to be mindful of what's going on inside of you. Um, to me, that's what meditation is really about. It's about being able to bring you clarity so that when you step back out into the world, you can be the best version of yourself, or at least a better version of yourself than what you where you were at. Sometimes I step in, like, for me personally, I love to meditate in the shower. So sometimes I'll get in the shower, meditate. And then when I get out of that shower, I feel like like I just feel like a completely different person. And that's the gift, because it's weird to think now, like, wow, I went so long in my life without really taking time to get clear about things.
Yeah,
And it's crazy.
I think that's very true because hustle and bustle of everyday life can overtake client, and you tend to forget about yourself as a person to go out into the outside world. You're expected to work maybe long hours, pay bills, family life, etc. But you
Mm.
take for granted for simple things in life, like, as you say, taking a step back, reflect, be mindful, appreciate life, what it's got going for you. Um, I'm guilty of that. I don't really do that a lot because there's a lot of different things going on in my life.
Mm.
Um, so I mean, meditation is I can speak. from what I'm hearing from you, is it's very valuable for people in their everyday life. Is that true? If you can get into the habit of doing it regularly?
I mean, I can only speak for myself and the space that I'm in my mind now, as opposed to maybe year and a half ago. Um, I remember when I was at that other job, and some days just leaving, coming home, and I wasn't even like available for my children and my wife, and because I was so caught up in what work had just kind of just beaten me down. And
Mm,
yeah, I think we're all kind of experiencing that. I don't, and because of that, that's why I think mindfulness and meditation are so valuable, because it's an invaluable thing to be able to have a tool that can sort of refresh your mind, because the fatigue is there. You're constantly thinking. Your brain doesn't get a break in the day. It's
mm,
one thing after another, always, and it's like so overwhelming. And at this, we've never. I don't think human beings have ever been so stimulated as we are right now. Everything, our phone, and what we're watching on TV, and then just like things that are happening around you and things. It's hard to deal with, I think, for anybody. So being able to step away and kind of clear away all of the debris so that you can kind of see yourself and see the direction that you're trying to move in, I think it's just an essential thing in life, really.
yeah, I think this is it. It can get so overwhelming with everything, and I think you don't realise, I suppose, until you're in the midst of it all, and until you step back with how, as you say, stimulus, how for brain, it's always on for go. It never rests, even when you're sleeping. It's still on for go, isn't it?
Always, it's just going, yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's just the situation is, I think with the brain, I've learned as well that how volatile it is, how it can control so many different things. From that can be from emotions to that can be then even movement and stuff like that. It picks up on things, and if there's been compounded trauma in there somewhere down the line as well, it
Yeah.
sort of holds on to that like glue, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it just latches on. You just find yourself going through days obsessing about things. And then what's crazy is when the thing actually happens, it's nowhere near as like significant as you think it was. You'll be thinking about something like, oh man, I don't know how I'm gonna get past that thing. And then it comes, and then next thing you know, it's in the rear view. You're like,
Mm.
oh, that's what that was. But you just obsessed about it and drove yourself crazy for 3 weeks before it happened. That's the situation we're dealing with.
I think that's very true, and I think in the sense of that we tend to think a lot about our past. We tend to think way ahead in future, but we don't focus on the present often enough,
Yeah.
do we? Really?
It's just it makes sense, right? I mean, our pasts are significant, right? Things happen that have formed who we are. And I think it only makes sense also at the same time to kind of look ahead and try to see what you think is gonna happen or something. But like you say, in doing that, we're so much in that past present place that the past and future place, that the present is sort of lost on us, because I mean it's what if all you have is this moment, you know.
Mm.
It's just trying to wrap your mind around the idea that like every day, like that's all you have. Everybody has the exact same amount of time in that day, and some people are going to use that time extremely productively. And then other people are just going to sit around and worry about what's about to happen and reminisce on what's already happened. So this moment is it truly is a present.
Yeah, spot on. So, I mean, in terms of when you have meditation and so on and so forth, what do you feel from it? I suppose just feeling that there's less tension in the body and more relaxed in yourself. Is that the right way of putting it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the sensation that I always look for is, do I? It can be little things. It's like, can I smile? I find that that's not as easy for people as they think it would be, right?
Mm,
So then what I'll do is, if let's say let's say I've recognized that I'm in a really like messed up state of mind, and I'm not smiling, I'm not laughing, I'm not thinking of funny stuff, I'm not um, communicating with people the way I need to. What I love to do is I do a gratitude meditation that is really just about me flooding my mind with everything I have to be grateful for. Because when when you start to think about all the things you're grateful for, you'll actually never run out, right?
mm,
Like if you actually just thought about it, right? There's so many things surrounding you to be grateful for. But when we lose sight of that, um, life becomes um, it's not fun anymore. It's not an adventure. It's a drag.
it's like
it's,
a chore
it's
then,
just
isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's like a chore. It's like another day. What's gonna happen today? Like I know this is gonna be bad today. It's just like that's the entire energy, but that's a choice. Like not, I think sometimes, and I think I've been guilty of this, of thinking this way, that like people felt like, oh, that's just how people think. People are
Mm.
just like, just kind of like, um, they kind of just view things like they're always about to fall apart or something, and that's a choice. I know a lot of people who think that way, and I've thought that way at certain times in my life, but that is a choice. And
Mm.
if you choose to go the other direction and say, listen, this adventure is still happening. I understand like it can be mundane, it can be boring at times, but once you realize again that this is a journey, and that there are exciting things that can still happen. Um, it's a different thing than just kind of like sort of waiting to die. I know a lot of people who are sort of like just waiting to die.
Mm. Yeah, I think this is it. Is it's just, I think life is a gift, though, isn't it? Because you can have so many things that go on it. All right, there's good moments. There's moments that make you learn. There's moments that make you upset. But that's natural in your life. But all them sort of emotions, it's still a gift one way or another because you've been brought onto this planet to enjoy life, make the most of it, and meet new people, go for talk about similar experiences. That's what life's about. How I perceive it. How do you perceive life as a if you was talking to someone that said give a definition of life?
Life is it's a wonderful experience, right? And at certain times, it's like you said, there are those negative aspects to what happens to us in our experience. But a lot of the times in my life, I've found that things that I thought were tragic things in my past eventually began something that was quite beautiful. That it was, something came out of that hurt and that trauma, which we're all kind of dealing with. All everybody, I try to keep that in mind every day. That hey, and the people who I'm dealing with and encountering are all traumatized and probably haven't dealt with it. And I know, there's parts to traumatic parts to my past that I haven't completely healed. So it's like people are trying to heal from their past, but the thing is that I think a lot of the times people just kind of get stuck in a
Mm,
place because it's like you no longer know how to solve certain problems. You'll just be like I'm too hurt. I'm thinking about that thing that happened 20 years ago. I'm looking ahead and thinking I'm going to be a failure, you know. But once you get present, that's when you can start to communicate with the powerful aspect inside of you. People are extremely powerful. I the thing I think I love the most is making somebody who thinks that they're not powerful understand their power. That's a feeling like no other thing.
mm. I think that's very important because I suppose as humans, when we're younger, it's not taught into us how to become powerful. It's not taught in us how to deal with life's, yeah, gift, I suppose, if you called it that.
Yeah,
Um, so it's just, I think, as you get older as well, and you've lived life and you've had some experiences, you only tend to learn then, don't you?
yeah, absolutely. It's. I think. No, what were we gonna say?
No, no, it's all good, mate. After you, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say. I think it's not taught to us really to be powerful, um, because I think a world full of empowered people looks completely different than the world that we live in. And in my mind, the more I can empower all of my brothers and sisters out here, um, I don't always feel like that. Sometimes I fall out of that state of mind, but that's always my goal, is for me to get back to a place of understanding the value of just everyday people, just people you see walking down the street, not looking at them like, oh, look at their shoes or something. Like just being able to like look at somebody and say that person is valuable, you know.
Mm. And that's a very important lesson in life in itself. I mean, in terms of meditation, if you're to do it, when do you feel is the best time to do it? Right at the end of the day, for start of the day? When do you feel that it would be best for people to get into that zone?
I mean, I feel like if you could do uh when you wake up and sometime in the middle of the day and when you go to bed, I think that's ideal. But if you really were gonna maybe start with a place, and this is just my opinion, but it's just um, I would probably start in the morning so that you can begin to train your mind, so that you can begin to, it's like putting on, the mental armor, sort of, not to do battle, but to understand that you're about to deal with a lot of stimulus when you walk out of your house. You there's going to be things everywhere. There's going to be the guy behind you beeping at you because he's late to work. Like all of these things are coming to you, so you find a place to stand so that you're not, inside of yourself, so that when these things come, and they will, hopefully they don't knock you off your center, so that you can you can use the day in the way that you want to use it.
Yeah.
That that's I hate days that go by when I was like, man, I didn't get a hold of this day. I didn't, it just kind of drifted by me. Like I hate those days the most.
Yeah, same here.
It's bad.
It's a common feeling, mate. Yeah, so I mean, when you're delivering your meditation, are there certain things that you look for, particularly in individual? so you know that they've endured the full experience that's meant to come with meditation.
Um, ultimately, I love doing this in person and in groups. So, you know, after I get done, I kind of like try to come back down, and then I, look around the room, and I look at like a person's face, because a person holds a lot of tension and stuff in their face. Again, that's why I think it's so hard for people to smile, because like, it's once that when I see a person smiling, or I see a look of peace on their face, or what I really love is when they come up to me and they say, "Hey, like a guy came up to me a couple weeks ago, and he's like, I thought that you were doing this meditation for me specifically," and I was like, I understand that, because I'm when I make my meditations, they usually come from me trying to heal things in myself, and then when I'm successful, I'm like, I can package this up and give this to somebody else, and then I gotta go and kind of uh, write it out and put it in steps so that I can communicate it well. But it's very personal to me. So those parts that I'm trying to heal in myself are the same parts that I think other people are trying to heal inside of themselves. So yeah, I love it when people say, "Hey, that really helped me out."
Yeah, that's excellent. I mean, in terms of sports context, so I come from a sports background in soccer coaching. So do you feel that meditation can be used in a sports context to help your team members out, or yeah, fellow participants?
I think it just. I'm talking. I'm trying to get in with a couple of different, youth league teams and things, specifically for like basketball. Like I played semi-pro basketball. Um, I I still play basketball now,
Yeah,
um, and I feel like since I started meditating, even though I'm 38, like I have a certain calmness in my mind that I didn't have when I was 18, that I didn't have even when I was 27, right? Like there's a calmness to with because all of that stimulus, that affects. I think that affects everything else, you know. Um, in a game situation, if you're playing in front of people, that you got to be able to find a place inside of yourself so that you can still be who you need to be on the court or on the field or wherever. Um, but I also think, like you said, it helps out in uh, the interaction between a player and his teammate. You know, uh, if you're in a distressed place and you can't calm it down, and then you go talk to your teammate in the distressed space, now you hand that distress around like a cancer, and it destroys the structure of your team. That's how important mindfulness is to sports, I think.
that's very important words, and it's something that I think in any sport um, we need to take more attention of, really, because as you say, we can be succumbed by pressure from whether that be people watching on, etc., even social media, etc. It all drives, doesn't
Mm-hmm.
it? Um,
Yeah,
tell me more about your basketball. So,
yeah.
how long you been playing basketball for?
I mean, I started playing. My first sport was soccer, but that I was, But when I was 5, that's when I remember I made my first basket when I was 5, and from then on, it was like it became an obsession of mine. I remember playing basketball so much, people be like, "Why you're always shooting?" Always, but eventually, that. that paid off. And when I was in high school, I played for a team. We hadn't been to this our what they call like the state tournament in like 27 years or something. And then my senior year, we got back to it, and I like to think that a lot of that has to do with the obsession I had with basketball. And time went on. I didn't actually play in college at all, and years after that, I started going to in my 20s. I started going to tryouts for different teams, and I played. I never gave it everything that I could, but it stays with me today. Like I'm right now. After we get done here, I might go shoot basketball. I love it. And
Wish I could join you.
yeah, man, it's I love playing it. It's one of those things you don't need anybody else to do. You can go do it yourself. And there's so many different things about just dribbling a ball. And you know there's even a mindful element to that, to dribbling, to shooting. All sports is about mindfulness. I think it's about presence. If
Mm,
sports is about anything, whoever is the most present is the most significant person on wherever, on the pitch, the field, wherever the court. It's all about presence. And you know, as time has gone on, as a basketball player, I've gotten older. I can't dunk anymore or anything like that, but I play regularly, and my state of mind helps me um, to continue and still play with guys who are 19, 20-year olds. I love playing against those guys.
that's amazing. Sport, it gives you a purpose and it gives you something that you feel part of, doesn't it? It's
Oh
very
yeah.
universal in that respect. I mean, do you have a standout basketball memory that you'd like to share with us?
Oh wow. I'd say so. When I was in high school, we beat this team to get into the state tournament. That uh, I don't know if our school will ever beat them ever again. I don't think it had ever happened before. I would kind of like live out in the country, so we were playing against a city team, and they were like supposed to crush us, but we beat them and got into the state tournament. And that was a great memory. But I think maybe when I came back and started playing again, in a semi-professional league, that was a great moment too, though, because after high school, and when I didn't play in college, I had the opportunity to, but I was not in that headspace. Um, but you know, I'll never forget it. I was like 22 or something. My buddy said to me, we were talking about playing basketball. I said, yeah, I was like, yeah, I love being a ball player. And he looked at me and he was like, you used to be a ball player. And I was like, what? And then I realized, like, yeah, I'm 22. It's been like a couple years since I've been out of high school and stuff. What am I doing? And then it changed the direction of my life. And then I shot every day and started going to tryouts and things like that. So, I'm proud that even though I could have probably done more with it, I'm proud that I was at least able to play on like a semi-professional level.
That's amazing. So, is there, in terms of your basketball career as such, is there anyone that stands out long in your memory that you're very grateful for, or did you, and how many hours did you put in a week to practice?
Well, I mean, I think at different times, especially when I was younger, I would just play as long as I could. Like uh, I don't even know how many hours. I was just be there at the court. And as I got older and when it became more developed, and I was trying to make like semi-pro teams and things, like I was putting a good 3-4 hours in like daily, and um, I was in extremely good shape. And um, every tryout that I went to, um, for the most part, I was pretty successful and held my own. And I always kind of had a chip on my shoulder because I wasn't a college basketball player,
Yeah.
and I was playing against a lot of guys who went to college, but it was kind of clear that they couldn't do what I could do. Um, so I like you said, putting in the hours, putting in the time is so important. I think with anything, my son wants to be a soccer player, and I'm like, man, you're gonna have to put in some time. You have to put in some hours. Not play Fortnite.
Yeah, with Fortnite, I only play it once every 2 weeks. That's my bad jokes out the way.
that's that's a good healthy place to have it. My son's like a crackhead with it. He's like, come on, just let me on. My friends are on.
So, in terms of going back to for mindfulness, meditation, etc., do you feel that when you're going through all them education years, that it should be enforced more into education systems for students? Do you think that would help them get through their examinations and workload as such?
It's so much to the like. I don't understand how that's not a priority, especially with just the way that kids are now, right? Like there's a I was born into like the information age, so when I was probably in like eighth, ninth grade, that's when like the internet like started to like really become significant. But I look at my own kids, right, and I see that you know they are more prone to look at screens and things, and that's they're not, maybe, I don't know if I can even say that they're worse off for that. It's just who they are, and
Yeah.
because of this, they have so much access to everything. Like they know so many different things that I had no concept of when I was their age, because
Mm,
they have access to it, and they have friends who have access to it, and they're gonna share their ideas and things. So I think they need mindfulness maybe more so than any children, because the world is coming at them extremely fast, and they don't have even like the emotional software, so to speak, to really deal with it. It's
yeah.
coming at them, but they're children. They haven't experienced you know all the crazy things that life has to bring them.
I think that's very true because I think it's all relied on when it comes to grades, pass in your examinations, to get out into the outside world of work, etc. But it's too much pressure, really. I found it
Yeah.
overwhelming when I was in school that they was knuckling down to me all the time saying, "You've got to do this, you've got to do all this revision, otherwise if you don't pass your exams, you won't be able to get a job," and everything like that. It was
Yeah.
like, I thought, hold on a minute, I can only take in so much of a certain subject, like whether it be maths or sciences and everything like that. It was
Yeah.
just so different. Um,
Yeah. Absolutely.
but I totally agree. I think it should be enforced more into education because it's sort of a big leap from when you leave schooling years and college years into that adult world, isn't it?
Ooh, that took me years. It took me way longer to acclimate myself in that change than I thought it would. And I watched a lot of people. Um, I watched a lot of my friends act far more grown than they actually were, and then they just accumulated ridiculous amounts of debt. And I remember thinking, then I was just like, this wasn't really a smooth process. As you know, you would think that you would want to make that process between, you know, college age kid or after high school, you know, into adulthood. You would want that to be kind of smooth, but you get there and you realize nobody actually cares. Like
Mm.
that's what you realize. You're like, oh wow, like people just they don't even care.
Exactly. It's about your experiences or just you as a person, isn't it, really, at the end of the day?
Yeah, really, that's really what it's about.
So, to add on that, if you were speaking to your younger self now, in that respect, what would you say about going into adulthood? What would you advise yourself, or what would you say to yourself to think it's not so dark and gloomy and scary, if you like?
I I think the main thing, and it's funny because I have a meditation like this where I go into my meditation and then I picture myself as the old, you know, as the older version speaking to myself as a child, and and like as a distraught child, like as a, you know, a whining crying kid, because sometimes inside that's how I feel. You know, you feel like there's that part inside of you, it's like, man, am I a kid? Like what is wrong with me, you know? But
I can relate.
you know, you're just like, what is this? I thought you're looking in the mirror, you're like, I'm a grown person, this is weird. But no, it's funny because um when I try to talk to that version of myself, it's always a matter of like, well, what's wrong? What is wrong? And then you start thinking about it, like on like your adult self. You're like, well, yeah, what is wrong? What is wrong? You're like, well, you know, like the person they pulled out in front of me in traffic, and now, you know, like it's crazy. But what I would say specifically about that transition to myself is don't let anybody disempower you, because that's all that's happening. There's just people vying for control over you, whether
Hmm.
it's your boss or people in your life. And there's all these people who seem to have these better, or to them, these better ideas of who you should be. And then when you listen to enough of them, you start asking yourself, like, wait, who am I? Who is the person I'm supposed to be here?
Yeah,
And you know, you actually know, but you have to be able to like silence these people and just be able, and these ideas, you know what I mean? Um, One of my favorite quotes ever, it was Terrence McKenna. He said, ideologies are not your friend. You know, people falling into these ways of thought, and then they can't, it's like a prison. They can't even think outside of that. It's like, don't let anything out here disempower you and make you think that it knows what's best for you, because you're
yeah.
the person who knows what's best for you.
Mm. No one else can impact that, can they? It's got to be coming from you ultimately.
Yeah. You know, you don't want to be living a life and then look at it. And that's kind of where I found myself at some point in time, where I was just like, man, I'm forming a life that I don't want to live. Like
Mm.
I've just been doing it, just been building this thing because I thought that's what I was supposed to be doing. And then you get to a point and you're like, is this who I want to actually be? And when you can't, you know, that small voice inside of you that's telling you, hey, you're trying to be something else. When it gets too loud, oh, it's like it's a destructive kind of thought, because you watch
It's like
parts of
a
your
foghorn,
world
isn't it?
crumble. Yeah, you watch it just kind of just you watch your world crumble around you, and then there's just you, and you and your what, you know. Where do you go from there? Because it
Mm.
gives you the ability to destroy, but it also gives you the ability to rebuild.
Yeah, sound solid words. So, question: what would you say is the? Though we might have covered it But what is the difference between mindfulness then and meditation? Because meditation is about own peace, self. I'd assume mindfulness. There's some things that overlap, but what is the main difference?
I think that the goal of meditation, or at least one of the goals of meditation, is a prolonged sense of mindfulness. Can you create a state of mind that you can carry with you outside of your meditation into the world so that you can use the mindful that same way of thought in the different situations that you're approached with, right? If you can bring that kind of, that's the main thing. I think that meditation sort of facilitates mindfulness. And that's, I could be completely and so might be somebody thinks I'm wrong about that, but to me, that's in my life, that's how it works. I'm Meditation is like the workout, you know
Mm.
so that when you play the game, you feel confident. you know when you go out in the world and you've come to grips with the idea that the people aren't evil, or when you think to yourself people are beautiful. It's a whole different situation than when you walk outside and you're like, oh, what's this guy want? Oh, was
Mm.
this person gonna rob me? Like, it's a whole different, like, way of being in the world. And I know what it's like to be in both of those kinds of minds. And I prefer the the state of mind that um, makes me want to grow and create and laugh and make people feel good. I'll choose that one.
I love that, and I love your positivity as a whole. So, in terms of spirituality, you say that's a big part of you and a big thing for you. Can you define
Yes.
in your own words what spirituality is as well, please?
I think of spirituality as, um, to me, spirituality is about what brings things into movement. There's a spirit to things. There's not so much. There are energies at work that you can see, that you can feel, and then there are energies at work that you can't see or feel.
Yep.
But it does seem that there's something going on there. And to me, that's what spirituality is really about: understanding that uh there are streams of energy outside of your ability to perceive them.
Mm. That's it's a good way of putting it because I suppose it's like being open-minded, um, looking at things in world in different ways. So, how can people find themselves, their true selves? How can they find themselves?
I always say, we're uh, one of the things with us is that we're extremely divided, in the sense that we have these layers of personality, you know, and uh, once we really start to attach ourselves to these parts of our personality, sometimes we can become supremacists about the certain things about it. We're like, oh, well, that what's good, whatever is good is whatever I am. Whatever I see in the mirror, that has to be the best thing because that's me, and I'm the best
Yeah.
thing. You know, it's that it's that kind of. So I get that and I understand that, but I think when we can take time to see past um, what our identity um, is trying to say, when we can get past all that stuff, when we can find out what is it that really matters to me, right? Because if if you're finding yourself it's only because you've sort of lost yourself.
Yeah.
And so there was this person who existed most likely at some point in time who had some understanding of what you felt was necessary for you to do in your life. And I think that, especially with meditation, um, when we can kind of sit still, and it's not as far away as it really seems. It's kind of like when you're taking a trip somewhere and you're like, oh, it's going to take forever. And then you're like, yeah, it really wasn't that bad. You know, finding yourself really isn't that far away. It's closer than you think. But if you're not trying to go there, then you won't go there. you won't
Yeah.
make that trip. If you're not trying to, if you really like it, it's one thing to say that you want to, and it's another thing to take action to go there. The
Mm.
map is not the terrain. That's not the same thing. You know, uh, and I think everybody, once you're ready to say, okay, I've been looking at this map and I think I know the way, but today I'm actually going to take these first steps in that direction. Because once you start taking those steps, I kind of feel like it's inevitable that you'll come closer to what it is that you think you should be doing with your life.
Yeah, spot on. Totally. So I assume with spiritual practices, again, it can enhance athletes' performances even further, can't it? Again, going back to the sporting analogy, but it can
Yeah,
really make you grow and develop, can't it? So
absolutely.
with spiritual practices like meditation, prayer, mindfulness, um, what we've just covered really, what would you say is the most beneficial? How would you feel, um, again, for athletes' perspective here, what would
Mm-hmm.
be the best one in that moment in time, would you say? Or can it vary?
I mean, I think for people, I think it absolutely varies, but realistically, I think mindfulness is. I think athletes sort of practice mindfulness without maybe even knowing that, because it's kind of like when you have a game, right? You're like, I got this game, and then when you can start thinking about it, you're like, all right, so what do I think is going to happen? Like what when you visualize it, visualization is a part of mindfulness. Being able to, because when you can visualize something and see it, and then when it actually happens, it feels like you already rehearsed for it and you've already walked through it in your mind, and it doesn't seem as crazy anymore. When
Mm,
you're like, oh man, I got to go against that guy. I know he's like 300 some pounds. You figure out how to deal, like, it's like, as opposed to just showing up in the moment, be like, all right, I didn't think about what I'm going to do about this guy. No, when you think about these things, um, before, like I said, that's a form of mindfulness. Being mindful is about, I think, applying your mental capacity to a situation so that you can alleviate yourself of a lot of the stress that comes with that.
mm.
And in a sports setting, uh, that's and that's really just one part of it for sports, because realistically, when you're in the game, now you have to be mindful. You have to continue to be mindful. You have to continue to say, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What about this person on the other side? What's their strengths and what's their weakness? What that all of that, it comes with, I think, gamesmanship, and that's why I think mindfulness. And I'm not saying that prayer and things don't have the because I'm sure that those things help people too, but to be mindful and to continue to be mindful of your interactions with your teammates, to be mindful of when your teammate had a bad day, or when your teammate, he's not in the right frame of mind or something. Now you can do something about that. But
Yep.
if you're not mindful of it, then you can't. All you can do is pretty much interact with him, and then you get mad, and then you create a whole situation.
I'm going to put you on the spot now, but
Oh, that's
and I
fine.
don't mean to put you on the spot, Will, but
Oh no, that's fine with me.
can you go through with us now a mindfulness exercise?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay,
Yeah. I mean, if this, what I'm going to do right now is something that I do every day.
okay,
Because it's important to me. This is my gratitude meditation, and yeah, it works well for me. And hopefully, it'll help you out and help whoever's listening. All right,
excellent. Okay,
all right. So, if you can, I want you to close your eyes,
yeah,
and I want you to start. I want you to start seeing if you can smile. Can you smile? And if you can't, I want you to think. All right. I want you to think about the people who mean the most to you. I want you to see their smiles. I want you to feel how it feels to be in their presence. I want you to think about those who have gone on before us. Honor their memory. Hear their words. See that they're not gone from you. They exist right there in your heart. Now I want you to move your attention to the people who give your life such meaning right now. Maybe some people who are helping you. Maybe some people that you're helping. Think about those who put a smile on your face. Now, I want you to pay attention to your surroundings, where you're at right now. Think about how grateful you are that you have food, you have clothes, you have money, even if you don't have as much money as you want. Think about the fact that you have a place to lay your head tonight. Think of all the meaningful relationships you have. Think about your car. How many people in this world don't even have a car? Think about those who are living in ways that you could never imagine. Find gratitude for the moon and the stars at night. How beautiful of a sight that is. Find gratitude for that sun up in the sky. How good it makes you feel when you see it, when you feel its warmth. And finally, I want you to find gratitude for the gift of this life, for the fact that you can wake up tomorrow and you can make your life, or you can begin to make your life exactly what it is that you want. And with that, I conclude. Thank you.
Wow. Found that very therapeutic, very calm.
I'm glad. I'm glad it lets me know I'm doing something right.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed that because again, it goes back to that point what we were saying earlier. You don't realize for simple things that you're lucky for, what you're grateful for, as you say, in your everyday life. And when you just have them 5, maybe 10 minutes just to reflect and home in on it, yeah, it's just made me feel,
Put
yeah,
you in an
good.
empowered. You feel empowered. You feel like, you know what, this drama of what my life, because I know what it is to do that. You're like, man, my life is just dramatic and just and but 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 when you really slow it down, you say, wow, this life could be so much worse.
Mm,
It could be so much worse.
yeah.
Especially people who are listening to podcasts and things like that. There's a large majority probably of the world who has no thoughts of listening to a podcast today. They're just going to try to figure out how not to starve.
Mm, very true. But thank you so much for that. Really,
No,
yeah,
I'm glad that could help you out.
appreciate it. And I'm sure it will help a lot of the listeners as well. So, really
I hope
appreciate
so.
it. So, any advice that you have for listeners? I know we covered it a lot in the episode, but as a recap, in your own words, any advice that you can give about what we talked about with meditation, life in general, anything that you'd like to share for floor with us, Will?
Sure. Um, I felt compelled to start teaching meditation because I saw in the world that there were a lot of people who were awesome people who had been convinced that they were not. They'd been convinced that they were the only their negative aspects. Um, they were convinced that they could not make the life that they wanted to. Um, and so the thing I try to always communicate is, don't give yourself some grace. I understand that there are things that some of you have done that is hard to get over. But never lose sight of the fact that you are redeemable. And not everybody, some people might define you by these things for the rest of your life. But what's most important is that you don't define yourself by those things for the rest of your life. That's a choice. People are far more powerful and far more beautiful than the world would like to say. And when I have, a time and a space where I can communicate to people that I see their beauty and I see their struggle, we're beautiful because of the struggle that we all go through. That's what makes us champions, right? Think about all of the successes that have happened in your life, right? It's easy to think about all of the times you failed, the times that it didn't work out. I know it's easy to fixate on those things, but understand that you're a champion. You've been, ever since the day you were born, you've been continuously getting better. Even if sometimes maybe you took a couple steps backwards. You you were a baby that couldn't talk, couldn't feed itself, couldn't walk, couldn't do any of these things. And in time, you learned to do these things. So just in the same way that happened, then today there are things that you would like to see happen in your life, and believe that you have the ability to move into those places just the same way that you learn how to walk and feed yourself and all the you have the ability, but without that being a conscious decision, you'll never move in that direction. So believe in your direction, believe in your worth, and you love yourself and love other people. If I'm keeping it simple, just love yourself and love others.
Wise words from a truly amazing man, Will. You really are. You've made me
Yeah.
think in a lot of different ways tonight. So I really appreciate your time. And yeah, we've covered quite a bit tonight, haven't we? Or today for you. Is it this afternoon in Pennsylvania?
It is. It is. I still got the sun shining out here and stuff. I know it's getting a little late out there, but
Oh, well, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on, and
oh, it
really
was awesome.
appreciate your
Thank you.
time. So thank you very much. And
Thank you.
no problem at all. And everyone, keep up to date with this podcast. Keep a watch out on this truly wonderful episode with Will Badie. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on, Will. Look after yourself, mate. Take care
You too, man.
and
You
come on again soon, yeah?
absolutely. Peace go
Because
with
we'd
you.
love to have you on to share your words of wisdom even more.
I'll anytime.
Thank you very much, Will.
But yeah, we try to be that group that can help be there for the players as a three, because I think you mentioned earlier, you want to have different characters in the changing room. You want to have different personalities. You don't want the same kind of people, because you're not going to be able to move forward. If you've got 10 people and they all agree the same things, you're going to get to a point in time where actually you're going to become unstuck. You need that one person to actually be like, nah, I don't agree with that. Or actually, we should try this. And I think that's why the huddle works, is we're all quite different as human beings. And I think you need three different people in there, because some players will naturally gravitate towards me and my personality, but equally some might go to the other two, and that's absolutely fine.